guys, this is Svetlana from Cosplay and welcome back to another legendary cosplay crafting video. So today I have a really cool collaboration with Gotham Knights, and Warner Brothers Games asked us to create a cosplay of the Voice of the Court. The Voice of the Court is a member of the Court of Owls who pull secretly the strings in Gotham City. To check out the game, just use the link in the video description down below. I instantly fell in love with the golden owl mask when I saw it the very first time in the reveal trailer, and I knew I wanted to build it. Plus, the awesome thing is that Benny finally gets a costume as well. Here is the catch though. This time I don't want to use any 3D printers, but instead make everything completely from scratch, just with simple EVA foam. In fact, the game developers asked us specifically to create helpful and inspiring tutorials for you guys, and I thought if I'm using only EVA foam, this would be a little bit more interesting. So even though we got the original 3D file from the devs, I will create everything completely from scratch with my hands, a utility knife, some contact cement and a Dremel. Let's see how this will go. So first, let's check out the absolutely amazing 3D model, which would be our main reference. Getting this insane amount of details right would be super tricky. To start though, I needed some patterns, and for this we had to figure out the right scale. As Benny already showed you in one of his previous tutorial videos on our channel, he needed a 3D scan of himself for reference. To do so, he threw on a wig cap to flatten out his hair, which he totally failed at, so I had to help him. No idea what's so difficult about that, but okay. Afterwards, he grabbed his iPhone and opened the 3D scanning app EM3D. This app is using the iPhone's Face ID sensors to scan the shape of Benny's head. He just had to hold super still and try to capture every side of his head. You can just ask a friend to help you out, but since my hands are super shaky, he was better off on his own. Well, and this was the result. Pretty impressive, right? Once he was done, he could directly export the model as an OBJ file and import it into Blender. And here is the mask perfectly scaled to fit onto Benny's head. The next step was to create the patterns for my upcoming foam build. To do so, Benny activated the snap tool here at the top and began sculpting a new and more simplified mask around the old one using a technique called retopology. He also already uploaded a detailed YouTube tutorial for this step, by the way. In short, Benny created a thin skin on top of the original mask with far less details. The magnet button snapped all new polygons onto the detailed model, so with this he was able to draft step by step a completely new mask. Once done with the base, he added all additional elements like these mighty owl brows, the raised details at the back, and all the feathers around the face. Following this, he marked all the necessary sections and seams in the model and used the UV unwrap tool to create the first patterns for me. So it was finally time to print out all those shapes, cut them out and transfer them to the proper material. I was so excited to work with my beloved foam again, even though I was also a little bit scared. At the end of the day, you never know if those shapes will work out or if you have to redo everything since the size was wrong. So let's hope for the best. As always, I used my trusty contact cement to glue all parts together. By the way, you can find links for all tools and materials I used in the video description. Just had to connect everything piece by piece and be careful to match all those lines. So this was the base. I was obviously far from done with all the cutting though. The mask was still missing the face, which was the most important part. Here I had to add quite some angles and weird edges and had to connect the halves first. But once these pieces were glued together as well and some other parts were added, this was the exciting result. Okay, it's probably not as exciting for you at this point, but trust the process, it will look good. Just had to attach the face to the back and the base was finally done. And the best part, it fit Benny perfectly. Yay! Now to give the mask some extra stability and make it less wobbly, I mixed some 2-part resin and poured it into the headpiece. Then I spent around 10 minutes rotating the thing and then let it fully cure for around 1 hour. Next, onto the larger details. I got a pattern here as well, traced everything onto foam, glued all parts together, and attached them to the mask. Benny really did a great job giving me all the necessary patterns, so everything just fit like a glove. Seeing how it all came together was so satisfying, even though cutting and gluing all those parts was pretty tedious. The mighty brows were actually my favorite, since they gave the mask the iconic owl look. I was super happy with the result so far. But now it was time for the real work. As everything got smaller and smaller, I wasn't able to use Benny's patterns that much anymore and had to rely on my dremeling skills now. This was obviously super dusty and required a lot of hoping and guessing. But at the end, everything still kinda fit together and I was able to build up the mask slowly but steadily. I was so excited to see how everything came together. As you maybe already noticed in the background, I also started with the feathers of the helmet part. Oh, it might be a good idea to show the reference at this point again, right? See, the 3D model had all those tiny details and countless feathers, and I was a little bit intimidated to cut everything out by hand. So while I obviously could do that, we ended up using our laser cutter to speed up the process. Still, sanding every single piece took forever. I think I glued on around 100 of them. The result was totally worth it though. Laser cutters are the best. Cutting out those round thingies would take forever otherwise. Anyway, back to the details. I did encounter some limits simply because I worked with just foam and a Dremel. So my details were not as sharp and clear as the 3D model. Still, I think with some time and patience, you can create really some amazing stuff with just EVA foam as well. Once I got my swirlies, it was time for my Dremel again. I had to work super fine, but I think the result was okay. Now I just needed to glue all those parts on. These details made such a difference. Also, how do you like these super fancy fake eyelashes? Next, onto the feathers around the owl mask. Luckily, I only had to Dremel them a bit and could glue them on directly afterwards. Then we made those claws using patterns from the 3D model and I attached them with simple contact cement as well. Now for the final step, Benny had to help me again. To apply the very last details, he threw on all those pretty swirlies and began covering his patterns with puff paint. As my hands are super shaky, this step was up to Benny. I think he did an absolutely incredible job here. What do you say? The paint had to dry for around 10 hours and afterwards I used a heat gun to let the paint lines actually puff. Well, and this was the foam build so far. It took me 7 full days to create the mask completely from scratch and I think we got really close to the 3D model. Benny helped me a ton with his amazing patterns and it was super fun to bring everything together. I admit though that my hands hurt after that much sanding. The mask fit me as well, but it's a tiny bit too large. Benny looks far better wearing it. Last but not least, priming and painting. We used here Flex Bond, which we mixed with black acrylic paint and a little bit of water. I usually apply at least 3 layers to get rid of the sanding texture and the last foam bits. Flex Bond does a great job to even out imperfections and is super beginner friendly to put on. Once done with the step, Benny prepared some golden Vallejo airbrush colors and covered the whole mask with a shiny base paint. Afterwards, he used a mix of gold and brown to add shadows. This step still needs a bit of practice, but it makes a paint job just far more interesting and really brings out the details. For the really tiny areas, he also used a brush. This especially helped to highlight the puff paint details. Well, and finally, Benny sealed the whole paint job with a coat of satin spray varnish. So, and here is the final mask. How do you like the result? It's obviously not as perfect as the 3D print would be, but I think this project shows that even detailed builds can be accomplished with just EVA foam. And now, time for the final test. Fits like a glove. To bring the voice of the court truly to life though, it was time for a super fancy photo shoot. Benny placed a blue and orange light to create a mysterious atmosphere and then got into a fitting suit. I think he looked awesome as the voice of the court from Gotham Knights. And the mask looks so pretty and shiny in this light. While Benny usually takes all my cosplay photos, it was now time for me to take photos of him. We did a few shots and tried our best to recreate the personality of this mysterious character. I think he did a great job looking like a supervillain. Finally, Benny imported 3 of the best photos into Photoshop and began with his magic. He got rid of the background and then gave the image to his brother Jacob, who is a pro in Unreal Engine. Here he placed Benny in a gothic throne room and made sure the lights fit the scene. Then Benny brought all of it together again in Photoshop. Taking cosplay photos like this is really fun.
If you really want to go down this rabbit hole, you need to know there's no coming back from it.
Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the crafting process of our golden old mask of the voice of the court. And I also especially hope that you enjoyed to see Benny finally in costume, since so many people asked for it. And I think Benny did a great job on portraying the voice of the court, and we are now super excited to finally play the game. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions regarding to the crafting process of the full mask. For me, it was super exhausting because like recreating all those details was really challenging, especially since we had the 3D file and I could just press a button and then Benny would do actually all this work and finish the mask. Oh, what a coincidence, he actually did. And yeah, he completely 3D printed the original file as well. This surely took some work too, and you will also see the crafting process of the mask in another video. But I think I did a quite good job on, like just recreating everything out of foam, or like, do you actually see a big difference? Like, which one is the foam mask and which one is the 3D print? And yeah, I hope you really enjoyed the whole challenge, because like for me, it clearly was fun. And finally, thanks so much to the game devs of Gotham Knights and Warner Brothers games. It was super fun and it was a really cool collaboration. And as always, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And see you very soon in the next cosplay crafting video. Bye bye. And finally, thanks so much to all our super Patreons who are supporting us with our videos. And these are /cosplay, Emma, Ethan Makes, Joachim, Luisa Paris, Nif, Nikolai Matok, and Roar. And also, thanks so much to all our other Patreons. You are awesome.